On this special episode of Supercars Torque, it's time for a mid-season report card. It's the middle of the season, so it's time to have a look at who's doing a good job and who's doing a not so good job this year. Probably been a little bit nice on some of the guys because it is, you know, they've got time to bring it back. But yeah, this is kind of a bit of a look at where everybody is and how they're doing so far this year. First cab off the rank is Team CoolDrive, currently sitting last in the team's championship. You could say Tim Slade is doing a bang-up job for the team because he has scored 100% of the team's points. All jokes aside, Tim's currently sitting 10th in the championship, which is extremely good for this single car team. We haven't seen them get a podium yet this year, which has been a bit disappointing. Their best result of fourth came at the Grand Prix. He's had 7 other top 10s, so the result has probably been a bit more of a consistent rather than a spectacular year. You do have to wonder though, if as I drill down with some of the other teams and their points percentages and things like that, if this team had 2 cars and the second driver had only scored even 60% of Slade's points, they'd be, you know, mid-pack. They'd be around the level of BJR1 or, you know, Erebus, which, you know, is pretty impressive for what is essentially a very new team with probably a lack of personnel. I'm going to give these guys a B. Next up, we have PremiAir Racing, the last of the 2-car teams. They're sitting 23rd and 24th in the championship. Not really a great place to be, but that's exactly where we would have expected them to be at the start of the year, and I probably expected them to be kind of a long way off the back of the field. They're kind of in the fight. So the points spread between the 2 drivers doesn't really tell the whole story, with only kind of 1% difference between the 2 of them. You have to look, you know, Jacobson has had 3 top 10 positions. Granted, they all came at the Grand Prix. Pither hasn't been in the top 10, and Pither is actually leading Jacobson in points. So that gives you an idea of the, I suppose, inconsistency from Jacobson. You know, he just has those peaks and troughs. He's kind of all over the shop. But they don't have to worry about that for the rest of the year because they have got rid of him. I suppose this team, a lot will be said about their intentions with who they go for that second seat. Kind of, I suppose, a bit as well who's available, but yeah, whether they go for, you know, someone who definitely deserves that drive, or if they just go for someone who has a bigger budget. For this point in the year, I'm going to give these guys a D. Up next is Matt Stone Racing. They're currently sitting 9th in the championship, which is actually ahead of Tickford 2 and BJR 2, but they're going to get lumped in with, you know, as a 4-car team. So they're not doing as bad as it seems, but they started off the year so strong and it's kind of tapered off after the last few rounds. Todd Hazelwood has been doing more of the heavy lifting result-wise. Jack LeBrock's qualifying's probably been a little bit more impressive, but his race results have been a little bit lackluster. Todd has 7 top 10 finishes, and he was actually in the top 10 of the championship for a little while. But now he's 14th in the championship. Jack is 18th. Funnily enough, that's exactly where I predicted them in the championship positions. So, yeah, somewhat predictable. It'll be interesting to see whether this kind of form slump continues or whether they, you know, progress back to where they were kind of at the start of the year. For this point of the year, I'm going to give them a C-. Team 18, a team of 2 halves. Yeah, Pye's year has not been helped by a couple of big crashes, some his fault, some not his fault. That's led to his fair share of did not finishes and actually a few did not starts in there as well. And let's not get started on those power steering woes. The numbers are a little bit worrying though, because Frosty has actually scored 60% of the team's points, which is the second biggest gap between teammates. It's strange when you think that Frosty is the one that currently doesn't have a contract next year and Pi does, when, you know, Frosty's really been carrying the team. He's got 9 top 10 finishes and is currently sitting just outside that top 10 in the championship in 11th position, and Pi is lagging all the way down in 19th position. It's probably been a bit of a disappointing year for the Waverley Forklifts team. I'm going to give him a C-. Brad Jones Racing. Jaime has basically left off where, you know, Nick Percat was last year. He's currently sitting 9th in the championship, which is pretty much predicted, you know, that back half the top 10. He's had 2 podium results and 11 other top 10 finishes, so he has been quite consistent. As for the rest of the team, there is some questions. Macaulay Jones is actually sitting 17th in the championship, which, you know, you might say 17th, not that impressive, but that is in front of Bryce Fullwood, who is 20th. So that would be hurting a lot of the keyboard warriors out there who really get stuck into Macca. You know, he's only there because his father owns a team, blah, blah, blah. Speaking of people who are only there because their father owns the team, or the license or whatever, Jack Smith, last of the full-time drivers, sitting in 25th position in the championship. I'm going to give them a C overall, and that's only because of what Jaime's been doing. If it wasn't for that, they'd be further back. Next up, we have Erebus. So much was expected of Erebus this year. I was expecting them to be fighting for wins, and it's been a bit of a letdown, let's be honest. Brody is sitting 8th in the championship, which is pretty reasonable. He's had 1 podium and 9 other top 10s. Will Brown is all the way down in 16th. I figured both of these guys, I had them in the back half of the top 10, but I figured they'd be, you know, fighting for wins, not where they are. It's just been a little bit disappointing for me, and that means they get a C. Walkinshaw and Andretti United. Well, they're the most disqualified team of the year. Probably not something you'd want to be bragging about, but here we are. Chaz has 4 wins, which is the second most of anybody in the field, but only 1 other podium and 5 other top 10s, so he's only sitting in 6th. The consistency just hasn't been there from Chaz. And then Percat. So much was expected. The engineering change in Darwin seems to be headed in the right direction. We did see him get 2 10th positions on Sunday, which, you know, nothing to write home about, but considering he'd only had 2 other top 10s for the rest of the year, you know, at least there was a bit of consistency. They seem to be moving forward. It's been a bit disappointing, and then with, you know, Mostert being up and down, I'm going to give them a B, probably being a little bit generous, but yeah, Chaz does have 4 wins. Grove Racing, 4th in the championship. The surprise packet of the year, Dave Reynolds, 5th in the championship. Probably even a little bit more surprising, Holsworth's in 12th too. I think I said at the start of the year that Dave was a very hard one to predict in the championship, because if everything went right, he could be right up the front. But if everything, like the last couple of years, he's been well down the back. Anyway, we saw this team get a double podium at the Grand Prix. That's, I'm just nearly speechless on that. Dave's been on the podium 5 times. It's only going to be a matter of time before he takes out a win. Yeah, they're just, I've been very surprised by them this year. I'm going to give them a B+. Tickford Racing. You could say that they're doing a worse job than Brad Jones Racing. Now, hear me out. Waters is 3rd in the championship. He does have 3 wins to his name, 7 podiums, 14 top 10s. But the other 3 drivers are just nowhere, and you would at least expect these guys to be fighting. Courtney's 13th with 1 podium. Kostecki and Randall, 21st and 22nd in the championship. That's just... Jake's had 2 top 10s, Randall none. I expected him to be fighting Feeney for Rookie of the Year. He's just getting trounced. I I'm sorry, Randall is my disappointment of the year so far. His best result has been 11th. Yeah, it's ridiculous to think in a 4-car team, Waters has basically scored as many points as a percentage of the team points as what Pye, Feeney and Percat have scored within a 2-car team. So Waters has just trounced them statistically wise. I don't know what's going on here. They get a C only because of Cam Waters' position. The rest have just been disappointing in my opinion. 888. Basically, because of the rookie, they aren't leading the team's championship. If it was, you know, Van Gisbergen and Whincup, yeah, they'd be miles ahead. Shane has won 50% of the races and only been off the podium 4 times all season, and he's only been out of the top 10 twice this season. He's got a decent lead in the championship. It's all roses for Shane so far this year. Feeney, he's doing better than what I expected. He's currently 7th in the championship. He only has 1 podium, but you know, it's been pretty impressive for a rookie. He's had 12 top 10s so far, so the consistency is there. I figured there'd be a bit more of a win and bin kind of thing from him this year, but he has actually been quite consistent. Yeah, he's doing pretty good when you compare him to what Randall's doing, and really Randall probably has more experience as well. And yeah, he's just, granted he's in a better car, but yeah, he is doing a pretty good job. I'm going to give them an A overall. And the leader of the team's championship, Dick Johnson Racing, there's only 2 wins that they've had this year, which is a little bit disappointing. That's 1 each. But yeah, you figured a team leading the team's championship and 2nd and 4th in points probably have more than 1 win each, and Davison's was a little bit, you know. Each of them both have 8 other podium positions. They've been very consistent. Anton's only been out of the top 10 twice, the same as Shane Van Gisbergen, but obviously not, you know, winning half of the races is a bit of a difference. Will's missed out on the top 10 on 5 occasions, so it has, you know, they've definitely been more consistent to get that team's championship and, you know, sitting 2nd and 4th in the championship. But it's been consistency not spectacular. So overall, I am going to give them an A, but there's definitely some room to improve there. Now, what everyone wants to know, how are my tips for the championship doing? Well, I've got 4 drivers sitting exactly in the positions that I predicted for them to be in. There's quite a lot of them that are only kind of 1 or 2 positions out. However, there are some standouts. What I would call the winners, definitely the Grove boys. Reynolds, I predicted him 19th. He's currently 5th in the championship, so a long way out there. Holdsworth, I put down for 21st. He's currently 12th, so pretty good there. And of course, Brock Feeney, I predicted him in 12th, and he's currently 7th. As for the losers, Percat, predicted 5th, currently 15th. Brown, I predicted 8th. He's currently 16th, and Thomas Randall, I predicted 10th, and he is currently 22nd. Now, there is time for these guys to correct these things, but, you know, yeah, it's midway through the year, so there's probably not going to be big swings on these things for the rest of the year. Now, what I hope for the rest of the season is for Dave Reynolds to take out a win for the Groves, and I want to see the Erebus boys get back in the fight because they are some exciting young prospects. But down in the comments, let me know what you want to see for the rest of the season. Who have been your surprises and your disappointments so far from this year? But that's it for my mid-season report card. Until next time, I'm still Dave, and I'll catch you later.